All praise is due to Allah, the most merciful, the most wise. We seek His help, His guidance, and His protection. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most difficult emotions a human being can experience is the feeling of loneliness. You may be surrounded by people, yet feel unheard. You may be struggling silently, thinking that no one understands your pain. But today, let us remind ourselves of a powerful truth. Allah is defending you, even when you feel alone. Like feeling alone does not mean you are abandoned. It simply means you are human. Allah, the creator of the heart, knows every emotion that passes through it. He knows the tears you hide, the worries you cannot explain, and the questions you are afraid to ask. When the world fails to notice you, Allah never loses sight of you. Sometimes Allah removes people from our lives, not to harm us, but to protect us. Sometimes doors close, not because we are unworthy, but because what lies behind them would damage our faith or delay our growth. This is part of Allah's defense. He shields you from things you do not yet understand. Reflect on this. If Allah were to give us everything we asked for immediately, we would be overwhelmed, distracted, or even destroyed. So He delays, He redirects, He replaces, and all of this happens while we think nothing is happening at all. My brothers and sisters, trials are not proof that Allah dislikes you. In fact, they are often proof that Allah is nurturing you. Just as a teacher challenges a student to help them grow, Allah allows hardship to strengthen your patience, purify your heart, and bring you closer to Him. When you are pushed to your knees, you are in the best position to make sincere dua. Remember this important lesson. Allah's help is not always loud. Sometimes it is silent protection. Sometimes it is a delay. Sometimes it is the strength He places in your heart to keep going even when you feel empty. Okay, when you feel alone, talk to Allah. When you feel weak, rely on Allah. When you feel lost, ask Allah for direction. He is Al-Wakil, the best disposer of affairs. Place your trust in Him and you will find peace even before your problems disappear. So walk forward with confidence. You are not forgotten. You are not unprotected. You are not alone. Allah is defending you even in moments when you cannot see it. May Allah grant us understanding, patience, and unwavering trust in Him. Ameen. Loneliness is one of the most misunderstood experiences of the human heart. Many people assume that feeling alone is a sign of weakness, abandonment, or failure. But in reality, it is a deeply human emotion that even the strongest believers experience. Feeling alone does not mean that Allah has distanced Himself from you. On the contrary, it is often during moments of loneliness that Allah draws a person closer to Him in ways that are subtle yet profound. Allah created the human heart and understands its emotional needs better than anyone else. Every feeling of isolation, confusion, or sadness is already known to Him before it even forms within you. A person may feel lonely despite having family, friends, or a supportive community around them. This type of loneliness is not about physical absence, but emotional disconnection. When others fail to understand your struggles or minimize your pain, it can create the illusion that you are facing life on your own. Allah reminds us that His presence is not dependent on human companionship. He is near at all times, fully aware of what the heart conceals. Even when you cannot express your pain in words, Allah understands it completely. Allah's nearness is not limited by time, place, or circumstance. When a person feels alone in the depths of the night, burdened by thoughts that refuse to quiet down, Allah is closer than anyone else could ever be. He hears the silent cries, the unspoken fears, and the whispered hopes that never reach human ears. This nearness is not symbolic or emotional alone. It is real, constant, and intentional. Allah's knowledge of you is complete, and His awareness of your state is uninterrupted. Loneliness often forces a person to turn inward, to reflect, and to question the meaning of their experiences. While this can feel uncomfortable, it can also become a doorway to spiritual awareness. When distractions are removed and external support feels distant, the heart becomes more receptive to remembering Allah. In these moments, the believer begins to realize that reliance on people is limited, but reliance on Allah is absolute. This realization is not meant to create detachment from others, but rather balance, teaching the heart where true stability lies. There are times when Allah allows a person to feel alone so that they may discover the strength of their relationship with Him. If every need were met through people, the heart might never fully turn to Allah. Loneliness can therefore serve as a reminder that ultimate comfort, reassurance, and understanding come from the Creator, not the creation. Through this experience, the believer learns that Allah's presence does not fade when human presence does. Feeling alone can also sharpen one's awareness of Allah's mercy. In moments of vulnerability, a person becomes more honest in their supplications. The heart speaks without filters, without formality, and without pretense. This sincerity is beloved to Allah. When a person turns to Him with a broken heart, acknowledging their weakness and need, they are engaging in a form of worship that is deeply meaningful. Loneliness strips away arrogance and self-reliance, replacing them with humility and trust. Another important dimension of loneliness is that it teaches patience with oneself. When external validation disappears, a person is forced to confront their inner world. This can be challenging, but it is also an opportunity for growth. This process, the believer learns to find worth and dignity through their relationship with Allah, rather than through the approval of others. This shift is essential for spiritual maturity and emotional resilience. Because Allah's nearness during loneliness is also reflected in how He provides strength rather than immediate relief. The situation may not change instantly, and the loneliness may not disappear overnight, but the heart becomes stronger, more grounded, and more hopeful. This inner strength is a form of divine support that is often overlooked. Allah does not always remove the feeling. Sometimes He equips the believer to carry it with patience and faith. Ultimately, loneliness becomes less frightening when one understands that it does not indicate abandonment. Instead, it can be a sign that Allah is inviting the believer to deepen their awareness of Him. The absence of people highlights the presence of Allah. The silence of the world amplifies the closeness of the Creator. Through this understanding, loneliness transforms from a source of pain into a means of connection, reminding the believer that they are never truly alone. Allah's protection often operates beyond human perception. Many people expect divine defense to appear in obvious and immediate forms, such as instant relief, clear victories, or visible justice. Much of Allah's protection is hidden, unfolding quietly through redirection, delay, and prevention. A person may believe that something good was taken away from them, while in reality, Allah was shielding them from harm they could not see. This hidden protection is a sign of Allah's deep care and perfect knowledge of outcomes that lie beyond human understanding. One of the most powerful ways Allah defends a believer is by blocking paths that appear beneficial but would ultimately cause damage. A relationship that ends, an opportunity that slips away, or a plan that fails may feel like loss in the moment. Yet Allah, who sees the future as clearly as the present, knows what each path contains. What feels like disappointment may actually be protection from spiritual decline, emotional harm, or long-term regret. Allah's wisdom ensures that not everything we desire is good for us, that even if it appears so at the time. Delay is another form of divine defense that is often misunderstood. When prayers are not answered immediately, a person may feel ignored or forgotten. In reality, delay can be Allah's way of protecting a believer from receiving something at the wrong time or in the wrong state. A blessing given too early may lead to arrogance, dependency, or distraction from what truly matters. By postponing certain outcomes, Allah prepares the believer internally, shaping their character, patience, and gratitude so that they can handle what is meant for them when the time is right. Allah also defends His servants by removing unseen harm from their lives. Many dangers never reach a person because Allah intervenes before they are even aware of them. Accidents that narrowly miss, illnesses that never develop, and situations that suddenly change direction are often examples of this unseen protection. Because these outcomes never materialize, they are rarely recognized as acts of mercy. Yet every avoided harm is a reminder that Allah's defense is active even when it goes unnoticed. Another aspect of Allah's hidden protection lies in emotional and spiritual safeguarding. And Sometimes Allah allows external hardship to prevent internal damage. A temporary struggle may protect a person from becoming attached to the world in a way that weakens their faith. Difficulty can soften the heart, keeping it humble and connected to Allah. In this way, Allah defends the believer's relationship with Him, which is far more valuable than temporary comfort or success. Allah's planning also involves replacing what is lost with something better, though the replacement may not appear immediately or in the expected form. A person may mourn what they lost, not realizing that Allah is gradually leading them towards something that aligns more closely with their purpose and well-being. This replacement may come as inner peace, personal growth, stronger faith, or new opportunities that were previously inaccessible. Allah's defense is not limited to restoring what was taken, but extends to improving the believer's overall condition. Human beings often judge situations based on short-term outcomes, while Allah's planning spans a lifetime and beyond. What feels like a setback today may prevent a much greater loss tomorrow. This difference in perspective explains why Allah's defense can feel confusing or even painful at times. Trusting in divine planning requires acknowledging that human knowledge is limited, while Allah's wisdom is complete. When a believer understands this, they begin to view challenges not as signs of neglect, but as evidence of careful, deliberate care. Allah's defense is also evident in how He strengthens a believer internally to face external challenges. Instead of removing the difficulty, Allah may increase patience, resilience, and clarity of purpose. This internal fortification allows the believer to withstand situations that would otherwise break them. Strength of heart and firmness of faith are powerful forms of protection, enabling a person to navigate life with dignity and trust, even when circumstances remain difficult. Through hidden protection and divine planning, Allah continuously guards His servants in ways that often remain invisible. Recognizing this reality transforms how a believer interprets loss, delay, and hardship. Rather than seeing them as signs of abandonment, they become indicators of Allah's careful supervision. This awareness nurtures trust, reduces anxiety, and helps the believer move forward with confidence, knowing that even when things do not make sense, Allah's defense is already in place. Many people assume that hardship is a sign of punishment or divine displeasure, especially when difficulties persist despite sincere effort and prayer. This assumption can be damaging to faith, as it causes a person to associate pain with rejection. In reality, trials are often a sign of Allah's attention and care rather than His anger. Understanding this distinction is essential for developing a healthy and informed relationship with Allah. Hardship does not automatically mean that a person is doing something wrong. Sometimes it means that Allah is preparing them for something greater. Trials serve as a means of purification. Just as physical impurities are removed through washing, spiritual burdens are lightened through patience during hardship. Struggles cleanse the heart from arrogance, heedlessness, and overconfidence in worldly means. When life becomes difficult, a person is reminded of their dependence on Allah, which restores humility and sincerity. This purification is not meant to harm the believer, but to refine them, allowing their faith to emerge stronger and more authentic. Another purpose of trials is spiritual elevation. Many believers desire closeness to Allah, but underestimate the role of difficulty in achieving it. Comfort often leads to distraction, while hardship encourages reflection and remembrance. Through trials, a person's rank can be raised in ways that ease and comfort never could. The patience exercised during hardship is not passive. It is an active form of worship that carries immense value. Every moment of endurance, every restrained complaint, and every hopeful prayer contributes to spiritual growth. Trials also reveal the reality of faith. When life flows smoothly, belief may remain untested and superficial. Difficulty exposes what the heart truly relies upon. In moments of crisis, a person discovers whether their trust lies in material security, human support, or Allah alone. This exposure is not meant to embarrass the believer, but to teach them where their faith stands and where it needs strengthening. Through this awareness, faith becomes more conscious and intentional. Hardship plays a crucial role in developing patience, which is one of the most emphasized virtues in spiritual life. Patience is not merely waiting for pain to pass, it is maintaining trust in Allah while enduring it. Through repeated trials, patience evolves from a forced response into a deeply rooted quality of character. This form of patience reshapes how a believer reacts to future challenges, making them calmer, wiser, and more composed. Trials can also be a form of protection from greater harm. What appears to be suffering may actually be preventing a person from falling into arrogance, moral corruption, or spiritual neglect. A difficult circumstance may slow a person down, forcing them to reassess their priorities and realign their life with meaningful values. In this sense, hardship becomes a safeguard, steering the believer away from paths that could lead to long-term loss. Your case study, another important aspect of trials is their ability to strengthen empathy and compassion. Those who experience hardship are more likely to understand the struggles of others. This awareness fosters kindness, humility, and a sense of responsibility toward the suffering of people around them. In this way, personal pain can lead to collective benefit as it transforms the believer into someone who supports, uplifts, and understands others more deeply. Hardship also teaches detachment from unrealistic expectations of this world. When a person repeatedly encounters difficulty, they begin to understand that lasting comfort is not promised in worldly life. This realization shifts focus toward what is eternal and meaningful. Rather than being consumed by constant disappointment, the believer learns to accept imperfection and place hope in what lies beyond immediate circumstances. This perspective brings emotional balance and spiritual clarity. Trials are not permanent, even when they feel overwhelming. Allah allows hardship for a specific purpose and duration, even if the timeline is unknown to the believer. Knowing that trials are meaningful and purposeful helps the heart remain steady during times of distress. Instead of viewing hardship as a sign of rejection, the believer begins to see it as part of a broader journey of growth, refinement, and closeness to Allah. Trust in Allah is not a passive concept. It is a conscious practice built through knowledge, reflection, and consistent effort. Tawakkul begins with understanding who Allah is and recognizing His attributes, such as His wisdom, mercy, power, and perfect knowledge. When a believer learns about these qualities, trust develops naturally. It becomes easier to rely on Allah when one understands that He is fully aware of every detail of their life and capable of managing all outcomes far better than any human plan. And knowledge plays a central role in shaping trust. When a person studies how Allah interacts with His creation, they begin to see patterns of mercy and justice in both ease and hardship. This understanding helps the believer interpret events more accurately, preventing emotional reactions from overriding spiritual clarity. Instead of rushing to despair during difficulty, the believer recalls that Allah's decisions are rooted in wisdom, even when the reasoning is not immediately visible. Reflection strengthens trust by connecting knowledge to lived experience. Looking back at past hardships often reveals how Allah provided support, relief, or redirection at critical moments. These reflections serve as reminders that previous challenges were not endured alone. Recognizing how situations eventually unfolded reinforces confidence in Allah's planning. Trust grows when a believer acknowledges that outcomes they once feared may have actually led to growth or unexpected benefit. Prayer is a key practical expression of tawakkul. When a believer turns to Allah consistently, they affirm their dependence on Him. Prayer is not only a request for solutions, but also a means of aligning the heart with divine wisdom. Through prayer, a person learns to release excessive control and accept that outcomes are in Allah's hands. This release reduces anxiety and creates emotional balance. Even when circumstances remain uncertain, patience works hand in hand with trust. Without patience, trust becomes fragile and conditional. Patience allows the believer to remain steady while waiting for clarity or relief. It trains the heart to accept that growth and change take time. Through patience, trust matures, shifting from a hopeful expectation of immediate results to a deeper confidence in Allah's timing. This maturity prevents frustration and nurtures emotional resilience. A gratitude further strengthens tawakkul by shifting focus from what is missing to what is already present. When a believer actively acknowledges blessings, their perspective changes. Gratitude reminds the heart that Allah has been generous in countless ways, even during hardship. This awareness builds trust, as the believer recognizes that the one who has provided so much in the past will not abandon them in the future. Applying trust in daily life requires balance between effort and reliance. Tawakkul does not mean abandoning responsibility or effort. Rather, it means doing what is within one's capacity while accepting that results are determined by Allah. This balance protects the believer from both arrogance and despair. Effort without trust leads to anxiety, while trust without effort leads to negligence. Understanding this balance is essential for healthy spiritual practice. Trust also influences how a believer responds to uncertainty. Life is filled with unknowns, and the inability to control outcomes can be unsettling. Tawakkul teaches the heart to remain calm in uncertainty, knowing that Allah's knowledge encompasses what lies ahead. This calmness is not ignorance of risk, but confidence in divine care. Through this mindset, fear is replaced with hope and acceptance. Over time, consistent practice of trust transforms how a believer experiences hardship and ease. Difficulties are no longer viewed as threats to faith, and blessings are not seen as personal achievements. Instead, everything is understood as part of Allah's management of life. This understanding brings inner peace, clarity of purpose, and emotional stability. Building trust through knowledge, reflection, patience, prayer, and gratitude allows the believer to navigate life with confidence, knowing that Allah is always in control